Hi, I'm Rachel Senes with City TV, and welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. Well, nowadays, many people are trying to save money here and there. Well, if you're a property owner of a qualified historic structure in Santa Barbara, imagine saving 40 to 60% in property tax and being able to use the money saved toward maintaining, preserving, and rehabilitating your property. Well, this may soon be possible if a program is implemented in the city. So would you qualify? The answer and all the details of the Mills Act for Historic Preservation in our top story. The city of Santa Barbara prides itself in many things. Its beautiful harbor, its vibrant downtown, and its distinctive architecture. Much of Santa Barbara's charm lies in its historic structures, including city landmarks like the Old Mission and the County Courthouse. Homeowners of historic structures in Santa Barbara pride themselves in their properties, including Adam Ross, who owns this landmark house on Coronel Street.
After you. So this is the entryway. This is the old parlor room. So we've got the old parlor piano in here, and when we've done all the furniture and everything kind of to date, the old 1800s look. This is an old porch that was enclosed, I think, in the 20s, so it still has the old glass and everything, the old mirrored, lead glass. It's a great room to sit and read a book and look into the yard. This is, from what I understand, an old coffin niche, and what happens, it's kind of an indent in the wall, and when people were, in the 1800s, when they were sick or even passed away, but more when they needed to go to a hospital, they would be on a stretcher, and to make this turn on this tight staircase, they'd have to have this, or else they'd fall down. So they call this a coffin niche. We've reached the top of the cupola. It's a pretty steep climb up here. And then you can see all of the beach, you can see Stearns Wharf, and these all open up, so a real nice view.
From its architecture to its history, there are many elements that make this house special, but there are also challenges when it comes to owning an older home.
For instance, we painted the house, and it probably hadn't been painted in 100 years, and it took about 4 months for about 4 or 5 guys to sand the entire house, and it's very time-consuming. It's old redwood, so we wanted to remove any rot instead of just painting over, old problems. So we went through and tried to replace everything. And then when we replaced it, for instance, we replaced a few windows that were broken, and you want to replace it the way it was. So we went and found some old glass with a wavy glass from 100 years ago. And just if you want to make it look right, it's expensive. You want to kind of have it done to keep the look and integrity of the house.
But the possible implementation of an incentive program may help Adam and other owners of historic structures address such issues. The Mills Act for Historic Preservation is considered the most important economic incentive program in California for private property owners of qualified historic structures. The Mills Act goes back to 1972, when it was enacted as state law.
The city has been interested in implementing that act for quite some time. We did prepare some additional research with other communities before we were going to move forward on implementation of the act.
If passed, the Mills Act program would allow property owners of city landmarks and structures of merit to reduce their property tax bill while entering into a renewable 10-year contract with the city in exchange for maintaining and repairing their properties. A city landmark is defined as any structure, natural feature, site, or area having historic, architectural, archaeological, cultural, or aesthetic significance. Like the Hunt-Stambach House, an ideal example of a building which retains a high degree of architectural integrity.
It was originally built in 1874, and it was originally at the corner of State and Anapamu. And of course, development pressures put the house in harm's way of demolition, and so the house was moved. And the interesting thing about this house is it's actually been moved 3 times.
A structure of merit is any structure which is deserving of official recognition as having historical, architectural, archaeological, cultural, or aesthetic significance. An example of a structure of merit in Santa Barbara is this Victorian residence duplex on the 500 block of Chapala Street. In addition to landmarks and structures of merit, the Mills Act would also apply to contributing buildings within historic districts. A historic district consists of a concentration of historic buildings, which are related to each other in either architectural style, period of significance, or through an established sense of time and place. Santa Barbara recently created its first official historic district, which is the Riviera campus on Alameda Padre Serra. Additionally, the city is in the process of evaluating 3 more neighborhoods as potential historic district designation. These are West Beach, Brinkerhoff Avenue, and this neighborhood, the proposed Bungalow Haven District. Here on East Sola Street, you can see that all the houses have uniform setbacks. Front porches facing the sidewalk with garages to the rear. And they all have similar size, bulk, and scale, and craftsman architectural features.
There's 3 types of properties that would be in a potential district. That would be contributors, which are properties that have enough of the original features and actually add and contribute to the character of the district. Non-contributors, which may be modern buildings that were built as infill development or buildings that were altered so much that they don't convey the original sense of time and place. And then potentially contributing buildings, which are ones that have been altered, but not to a degree where they can't be brought back to some semblance of their original state.
For now, qualified owners of official designated landmarks or structures of merit can look forward to the ability to apply for a tax break if the Mills Act is passed by City Council.
We provided some estimates based on some research with other communities, and the tax savings can be range in the neighborhood of 40 to 60%. So it's quite a bit reduction, but obviously it depends on the appraised value of the property.
The Mills Act properties are based on an income approach as opposed to a market value approach.
The result is a substantial reduction in property taxes. The owner will enter into an agreement with the city to use the tax money saved on preserving, maintaining, and repairing their properties.
And it really encourages these property owners to do the necessary renovation and take care of these properties. So many of them were built so long ago, they either haven't been maintained at all, they've had some renovation that's been maybe inappropriate, or it doesn't really help the property very much. But there's also just basic things that you have maintenance with an older property.
With the money that we would save on the taxes from the Mills Act, the money would be really used well. There's so many things that we would like to do to improve the house, and yeah, I mean, there's going to be no shortage. We've done a lot of work to the home, and it's in pretty fair condition, but there's a lot that still needs to be done, and I'm looking forward to doing it all.
Potential applicants of the Mills Act must have properties that qualify for historic designation under city guidelines and should also be aware of the specific eligibility requirements.
The thought is that we want this program to be held, basically down to the smaller properties, to people that really, they got themselves into a property, but they really don't have the extra money to do the required maintenance. And as anybody can tell you, particularly on a house that's this age, it can be a real money pit. There's always some project that needs to be done. And you're not just talking about exterior painting and details, you're talking about electrical systems, plumbing systems, dry rot. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be maintained consistently when a house gets to be this age. And so we're really looking for people that need this extra boost to keep up the appearance of their house and to improve and renovate and restore their house.
There have already been positive recommendations from the City Council's Ordinance and Finance Committees regarding the Mills Act program, although at first there was some concern about its fiscal impacts.
In convincing the program to be created, some caps were initially proposed, not only for the total cost of the program to not exceed $300,000 maximum revenue loss, but also that individual property and annual property losses would be limited and capped. So as proposed, the current property maximum valuation of an individual property would be $1.5 million of appraised value in order to qualify. And we believe those caps will keep the program in a controlled maximum revenue loss for the city.
One way the city would address the revenue loss issue is to start off with a pilot project, which would include only 8 contracts per year. The contract runs for 10 years and can renew each year, extending the agreement unless a notice of cancellation is filed by the owner or the city. In the end, the goal of the Mills Act program is to preserve the history and character of Santa Barbara that makes the city so unique, and to reach out to those who are willing to take part in that preservation.
I'm real happy with owning a piece of Santa Barbara history, and I'm real grateful that the city has taken the initiative to help preserve some of the landmark homes, because they're vanishing very quickly. And if you look through old books, and there's some really neat old houses, gone. They've all been demolished for, a variety of reasons. Some were just falling into disrepair and had to be destroyed. Some, they had to make way for, modern buildings. So, the more homes that can be achieve landmark status, I think there's only a certain number that are even available at this point to save.
So many cities around the world have they have a history, they have an architectural, cultural heritage, and by having a little bit more attention to this, people can understand the value of this history.
I think it'll keep the character of the neighborhoods and of the communities, and it'll encourage the people that are the owners to maintain those. In the neighborhoods that they've done that in Los Angeles, Pasadena, Glendale, they have a lot of Mills Act type properties. And you go down these streets and it looks like you're time traveling into a movie set or something, and it really keeps the property values up.
The goal of any incentive program is to get people to landmark or designate the structure as a structure of merit. Part of what people come to Santa Barbara for is the architecture. Yeah, we have a beautiful setting between the sea and the mountains, but we've also got a great collection of architecture. Santa Barbara has an overwhelming number of these high-style buildings that need to be preserved in order to keep the character of the city. By creating landmarks, we create the ability to save some of this heritage for future generations.
The Mills Act program has not yet been made official, and elements of the program are still being fine-tuned. The City Council is expected to further discuss and vote on its implementation sometime this fall. Well, there are many ways to reduce, reuse, and recycle, but did you know that you can reuse water? It's called gray water, and City TV's Nina Sang tells us exactly what it is and how you can reuse it in our next story.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. A lifestyle that can truly transform the way we live. And it's slowly becoming a reality for Santa Barbara residents. Everywhere we go in our community, we see signs, stores, and recycle bins encouraging us to reuse. Whether it's clothes, toys, or furniture, we can find a way to reuse just about everything, even turning scraps into art. But have you ever thought about extending that way of thinking to reusing water?
Gray water is the water that you can reuse that comes from the washing machine, the shower, and bathroom sink.
Basically, it's the water that would be otherwise going down the drain into the sewer that could be saved and rescued to irrigate landscaping. But don't confuse gray water with recycled water.
Recycled water is the city's wastewater, so it's the wastewater that comes from homes and businesses in the sewer system. It goes to the city's wastewater treatment plant and is then highly treated as recycled water, and then is plumbed back through a recycled water distribution system back to large landscapes where it's used mainly for irrigation and also toilet flushing.
Gray water has been legal to use in Santa Barbara since 1989.
Here in Santa Barbara, I tried to find out during the big drought in the 90s how many people were using gray water. No one had any idea, so I ended up doing a door-to-door survey just in the tract development next to my house in Hidden Valley, and it was over 50% of the people were using gray water.
In fact, Santa Barbara was the first government entity to approve the use of gray water. Other communities began adopting the regulation thereafter, and then eventually the whole state got involved. But previous gray water rules were simply impractical, making it hard for residents to install a gray water system in their home without negotiating through a maze of permits and regulations. But on August 4th, new statewide gray water standards for residential construction were adopted, allowing Californians to legally install simple laundry and single fixture systems without a permit.
The new state gray water regulations are really significant because what it does is allows simple, straightforward systems to be put in a lot cheaper and a lot easier.
There are nearly 22 million gray water users in the U.S., with at least 8 million gray water systems. Even with such large exposure, no reports of gray water transmitted illnesses have been documented.
It's not like it's nuclear waste or something. I mean, it's the bath water that your kids were just in, or the water you just had on your plates. The water from the clothes that you were just wearing. So you don't have to be overly paranoid about it. You just have to use common sense. In terms of chemical contamination, it does make sense to pay more attention to what you're putting down the drain.
Protect yourself from direct contact or consumption of gray water. In other words, don't apply gray water to lawns or to fruits and vegetables that are eaten raw, like strawberries, lettuce, and carrots. However, gray water can be used for fruit trees when applied under mulch.
One of the easiest things to do is to put in a laundry to landscape system, which is just taking your laundry water and running it out to large trees, fruit trees it works really great with, shrubs.
This would save you money and save resources by reducing the use of potable water. In most cases, the amount of fresh water used indoors equals to that amount used outdoors. In practice, reusing gray water to water plants outside can save about 1/3 to half of the water used for irrigation. With gray water systems, you may also have to change some household products that you use on a regular basis, such as your laundry detergent. And don't use products with chlorine or bleach, whiteners, or fabric softeners. Some detergents and soaps contain sodium and other salts that increases alkalinity of the soil and can harm plants.
For anybody that has a septic system, it reduces the load on the septic system substantially. You can save about half of the septic tank pumpings at $500 a piece, and you probably never have to replace the leach field in your lifetime, which is a huge savings.
If you educate yourself about gray water and what water additives to avoid, you'll save yourself money, help the environment, and conserve our precious water resources.
Even though gray water by itself isn't so important, it's just like $12 a month worth of water that you can save or whatever, that it's emblematic, it's like the poster child for this shift that I was talking about earlier, from a way of regulating building that's focused only narrowly on occupant safety to seeing the whole picture of risk, which includes things like climate change, groundwater reduction, groundwater pollution, surface water pollution, deforestation.
The approval of gray water use has sparked interest in the Santa Barbara community. The city recently held a gray water workshop informing locals about the new standards.
We were overwhelmed and amazed at, we had 120 people attend the workshop. We were guessing, around 20 to 30, and so it really shows the interest that people really want to use gray water.
The city plans to sponsor more gray water workshops in the future to encourage the community to save water and promote a more sustainable Santa Barbara.
If you're interested in installing a single fixture gray water system but don't know where to start, visit the city's website, that's santabarbaraca.gov/water. And we'll be right back.
I pledge to 20-gallon challenge. It's easy and simple. Turn off the tap while doing dishes. We pledge. Fixing toilets, thousands of gallons of water. We pledge. Always run full laundry. Use a high efficiency clothes station, water and energy. We pledge. Save water now. Take the 20-gallon challenge at ISBwater.org. Rediscover your sense of Santa Barbara. Stearns Wharf, you're on to something.
Shouldn't that go into recycling?
Recycling. Everybody knows the trash gets sorted. We don't need no stinking recycling.
Fact is, no trash gets sorted, friend. So if it goes in there, it just ends up at a landfill.
There's only one way to settle this. Draw.
Santa Barbara recycles.
And welcome back to Inside Santa Barbara. Well, during the Tea Fire, parts of Santa Barbara were devastated, including one of our popular open spaces. In our next story, we'll tell you about how some grant money helped to restore this location known as Santa Barbara's Hidden Gem, as well as how this grant money helped to create some jobs during a down economy. Early each morning at 6 a.m., a group of people head out to Parma Park. But not for an early morning hike, a ride on their horses, or a walk with their dogs. It's all business for these 9 workers who spend all day in an area that some people refer to as Santa Barbara's Hidden Gem.
It's a place to get away from the busy world. I get on my horse, come out here, I don't have to listen to a radio or a television, and I just enjoy looking at the plants and watching the different seasons. And after the fire, it was really fun to watch the trees, the oak trees, begin to sprout out.
Out here, it's peaceful, a stark contrast from last November, when the flames of the Tea Fire ravaged almost all 200 acres.
About 95% of Parma Park was burned. What you see today, you never would have known what it looked like in November because it literally was like a wasteland.
A wasteland with charred hillsides and burnt trees. After the Tea Fire, there was a great opportunity for the City Parks Division to begin a restoration project.
We had planned to do a capital improvement project at the Stanwood entrance, improve the equestrian staging area, make repairs to the road. We realized that there was no way we could move forward with that project, knowing that winter rains could just remove everything that we installed. So instead, we sat down with our Parma Park trustee and crafted a 2.5-year restoration plan.
The trust has existed for upwards of 10 years, I think, and I've quite regularly distributed funds to the city for regular maintenance, weed abatement, trail improvement, that sort of thing. So when the fire occurred, that was just a big event that created a need that had existed all along.
But although the city is grateful for funds that come from the Parma Park Trust, it was determined that to do an entire restoration project, it would require hundreds of thousands of dollars. And hundreds of thousands of dollars came in the form of a jobs grant.
We created a 2.5-year plan, and the Parma Park trustee committed to funding a portion of that plan. At the same time, we found out about this grant opportunity, and we put the two things together.
Whatever they did not receive from FEMA and from volunteers, they'll receive from the trust. And, you know, I'm sure that's what Harold Farmer would have wanted. Otherwise, Parma Park would just be in ruins.
For this particular grant, about $2 million was potentially available for the Santa Barbara County area. The grant criteria included the project needed to be located where there was a disaster or impacts from the fire, a location where workers who were previously unemployed could be hired specifically for that project, and then also it had a duration. So each person that's hired can work for up to 6 months.
Parma Park fulfilled all these requirements, and $186,000 in grant money was in the hands of the city, not only giving the park the care it needs, but also giving people a chance to work in a down economy.
The funding for the grant comes through the Workforce Investment Board, and their job is to create jobs. So we worked collaboratively with them on the project, the application, and then implementation.
Implementing this project is the National Emergency Grant Crew. One crew member we spoke to says timing is everything. The opportunity to work at Parma Park came after he was notified that his job at the library would be eliminated.
When they heard that my position was going to be removed from service, I was a driver there. I was offered to do a crew work on the trails up here.
Because of the crew and grant, more work can be done faster and at a lower cost.
Since the fires came through, there was a lot of bare ground, not a whole lot of plants and material. So we were able to find out where some hazards were, barbed wire, water piping that wasn't being used, hazards that were on the trail and near the trail. So we went and removed that.
When the fire came through, it opened up areas where we knew there was barbed wire, and it opened up areas where we didn't realize how far the barbed wire extended, or where the T-posts were that were holding the wire, or where pipes were previously on the previous ranches that were here. When the fire came through, it exposed those pieces of metal, and we decided to go in and take that opportunity to have the crew come in. We are taking kind of a hands-off approach to the vegetation, and we really aren't doing anything to the trees at this point. It's our understanding that it can take 3 years to even determine whether a tree is going to come back or not. And we're seeing quite a few of them come back, but we still need to wait and see whether they're going to respond to maybe our winter rains coming this year.
And when the rains do come, the crews have created these water bars or rolling dips so that rainwater will roll off the trail instead of piling up at the bottom of it. You can already see the improvement of Parma Park in the before and after photos. Here's a look at a trail that was not visible, but after some clearance, the trail can be seen once again. This is a photo before the crew worked on this hillside with hazards like barbed wire and posts. Now here it is after the crew cleared the hillside. Check out these hazards, pipes exposed in Parma Park before the crews cleared it out, and now a safer area free of hazards. Because almost all of Parma Park burned during the tea fire, there is much to be done. But the crew has already accomplished a great amount of work and will continue for the rest of the year.
I always, especially in the wintertime, try to ride to the top of the hill, the highest point in the park, which is probably in the background here. And there's a little picnic table up there and a little hitching rail. Sometimes on Christmas Day or New Year's, when it's really clear, we go up there and have a little picnic in the middle of the day. And you can see the islands, you can see down to Point Magoo. It is just gorgeous.
I think it's a rarity. There are not many pieces of property that are open to the public for recreational purposes that are as pristine as that. And it's going to be even more so when it's restored. How many places can you get out and hike and ride horses that are that scenic, that beautiful, and that rural and natural?
The crew started working in Parma Park in July and will continue through mid-December. Well, last month we took you to Kachuma Lake, the source of much of the South Coast water supply, and told you about the organization that keeps the water flowing, the Kachuma Operations and Management Board. Well, this month, Channel 18's Dominique Blocker introduces us to COM's partner organization that helps people not only get water, but also helps an endangered species.
Santa Barbara, nestled between the vast Pacific Ocean and 3 watersheds, would seemingly be a place with no concerns about its water supply. Yet water is one of the scarcest natural resources on the South Coast. Santa Barbara's average rainfall is 18 inches a year, only 8 inches more than regions classified as arid or desert. With water scarce and the supply from Lake Kachuma being divided among numerous municipalities and water districts, the Kachuma Conservation Release Board, or CCRB, was established to protect the water rights of the city and local water agencies along the South Coast.
There's an old quote that whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting over. In California, water rights are really important, and even once they're established, it's important to keep an eye on them to make sure that you're maintaining your water rights and your water supply is going to be available for your customers when it's needed. So CCRB was developed for that function.
CCRB was created in the late 80s for the purpose of protecting the South Coast Water Agency's Kachuma water rights. And so it's a water rights agency.
Formed in 1973, the CCRB is a joint powers agency whose members include the Carpinteria Valley Water District, the City of Santa Barbara, the Goleta Water District, and the Montecito Water District. The CCRB was created to represent its members in protecting their Kachuma Project water rights and other related interests. Already a balancing act to protect water rights for multiple member agencies' agricultural and consumption needs, in the 1990s, another important goal was added to CCRB's tasks.
When the project was first built, it was purely for people and agriculture, and still is. There's substantial water that goes for people, for agriculture, businesses, homes.
But in 1997, Southern California steelhead trout were listed by the National Marine Fisheries Service as an endangered species. The CCRB and the San Ynez River Water Conservation District, ID number 1, are responsible for carrying out the Fish Management Plan program in the lower San Ynez River.
And we have many projects that we are working on, 2 of which were just completed this past year to help fish passage. Also, the Bureau does release water from Bradbury Dam, Lake Kachuma, to protect a section of the fishery immediately downstream from Bradbury Dam year-round. We have a complicated, extensive water supply line which goes through the dam into Hilton Creek, which is a small tributary downstream of the dam, and that has become a sort of natural fishery conservation habitat because there's water there all year round, and there are a lot of fish in there now. So it really goes toward restoring the steelhead on the San Ynez River.
To curb the cost impacts of the steelhead restoration and enhancement projects, CCRB has successfully developed partnerships with and obtained funding from national, state, and regional sources.
They've been very effective at securing grants to allow us to develop fish habitat programs, and the reason that's important for water is that we have an obligation as water purveyors to make sure that environmental needs are met as well as water demand needs for residents. And so by providing good habitat and then meeting water supply, we're able to make sure that particularly the endangered southern steelhead is protected and has a habitat in the Santa Ynez River.
These restoration projects have helped to greatly expand the habitat of one of the region's iconic creatures. One recent example of a successful project took place at Kyoto Creek, a tributary of the Santa Ynez River.
This stream is an important stream for the Santa Ynez because it holds water, as you can see, even in the summertime. So when steelhead come up from the ocean and spawn and the young ones rear, this is a good spot to come to because there's water here, and a lot of places downstream there isn't any water. So we're doing our best to open up this habitat and the watershed above here for steelhead to be able to come in here. Now, this stream here has a road that goes through it. This is Refugio Road. And there are 9 low-flow crossings in here. And each one of them is a passage impediment for steelhead going through. So we're embarking on an ambitious project to remove all of them or modify them such that they'll be fish-friendly and fish will be able to, juveniles and adults, to be able to pass through this area without any trouble.
Projects like this bridge crossing on Kyoto Creek and others are done to benefit the steelhead. But in the end, by adding trees and other native plants and also creating safer roadways, the steelhead aren't the only beneficiaries.
The bridge was very narrow, very tight turn, had a really poor guardrail that somebody could, walking or be knocked off on their bicycle or fall through, or a car could go over the edge. So now we've got these really nice guardrails in here. It's very, very safe, much better. And then it's also good for the landowners that needed to take larger trucks through here to be able to access the upper part of their property. Now keep in mind that this is a road that goes up to the top of the ridge, so for fire suppression and fighting, this is the main thoroughfare up to that ridge. And those bridges were too tight for big bulldozers on trailers to go over. And this one now is ready for any sort of load you could possibly think of. So it's a much better project for lots of people, as well as the fish.
And for those who think the improvements are nice but unnecessary?
Well, those fish are native to this area here, and a lot of things that we as in humans have done have kind of made it hard for them to continue to live. But you could also look at it as steelhead they're kind of a litmus test for how the environment is doing in general. And so if the steelhead are doing well, we're doing a good job in preserving our riparian corridors in the watershed, we're not putting chemicals out here or extracting too much water or whatever, then it's a good sign that we're being good stewards of the environment. So you could use these guys, you could think of them as kind of ambassadors of the environment. And if we can do something to improve their situation, then chances are good we're improving our situation and where we're living and our quality of life.
Our main goal through CCRB is to find a balance between providing water for people and agriculture and protecting our water supply, because it's critical that we do that. But also we have to protect the endangered fish. And so we're finding a balance. We work with federal and state agencies and with all of our member units. It's a completely cooperative program.
That cooperation enables the rights and needs of people and the environment to be met and maintained, hopefully for years to come.
For more information on the Kachuma Conservation Release Board, visit their website, that's ccrb-board.org. Well, for 40 years now, the Housing Authority has provided award-winning affordable housing to the residents of Santa Barbara. Up next, Becky Oxborough has the story on the commission that contributes to the success of the affordable housing program.
It's hard to believe, but as far back as 1968, the city of Santa Barbara was beginning to experience housing prices rising out of the reach of its citizenry. Recognizing the trend, City Council began the legal process required to enable it to build its own affordable housing.
The City Council basically had to
make findings that there was an inadequate supply of affordable rental housing and that the community did suffer from a certain amount of blight with respect to the existing affordable housing. They needed more quality affordable housing in greater numbers.
After making those findings, City Council put Measure C on the ballot, seeking the power to build affordable housing. Measure C passed, and soon after, the Housing Authority Commission was formed.
It was really to provide affordable housing in the community through a series of partnerships, some of them governmentally funded, some of them in partnership with nonprofit agencies, to essentially make up for the fact that Santa Barbara is a very expensive place to live, and housing in particular has always been a challenge here, even 40 years ago.
Unique from other boards and commissions, the Housing Authority does not serve in an advisory capacity to City Council, but partners with the Council to supply rental housing to families with lower incomes, downtown workers, the elderly, and the homeless.
We are a separate legal entity from the city. We're not a part of the city government at all. We have our own budgets, we have our own sources of funding. Our funding does not come through the normal tax revenue streams that the city gets. We're separate from that. We rely mostly on funding for the federal government for our programs that we operate.
The Commission's 7 members are appointed by the mayor and then ratified by the City Council. Members are expected to have interest and background in housing development, management, or comparable experience.
It's, housing and spending public dollars on housing is always something that's debated in the public sphere. So you need a group of folks basically acting as advocates and also the people that are fiduciarily responsible to make sure that things are managed well and just overseeing the operations on a big picture basis.
One Housing Authority Commission member may be a non-city resident. 2 members must be tenants who are receiving housing assistance from the Housing Authority. At least 1 must be 62 or older, and 5 members represent the public at large.
I'm not 62 yet, but I am representing the people that live in housing, and I think that's important for them to have a voice in the Housing Authority and to get their needs met.
The Housing Authority Commission oversees a budget of $30 million. It directs staff on management issues, where to locate new units, and how to finance them.
The good news about our organization is we've always operated in the black, and we are not having the budget woes that a lot of government agencies are currently having. We're in very good financial stead, and it's a credit to the staff and the leadership on the commission.
To get an idea of how successful the Housing Authority has been, consider that 13% of all of Santa Barbara's housing is defined as affordable. Most of those units were either created or are managed by the Housing Authority.
We stand at almost 3,200 housing units in various programs. We've built and managed most of those from the ground up and continue to manage them today. A good portion of the portfolio is the Section 8 Rental Assistance Program. We have contracts with the federal government to provide subsidies to nearly 2,000 households that are low income, and the federal government provides us the money for those subsidies on an annual basis. And we receive upwards of $20 million from the federal government every year to pay these rental subsidies, and that's a great boon to the local economy.
The Housing Authority provides safe, affordable homes to nearly 1,000 seniors and 3,100 low-income families. However, the Housing Authority supplies more than just an affordable roof over people's heads. They also help lead occupants down a road to self-sufficiency.
We encourage our residents, our families, to enroll in family self-sufficiency, and that's a program that our Resident Services Department operates for our residents, and it's a program where we help them set goals, whether it's getting a new job or job training or finishing education, or even if it's just opening a bank account and getting our driver's license.
Of the more than 184 families who have graduated from the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, 35 families have gone on to purchase their own homes, including the Mitchell family.
The times when I had a raise at work and my rent would go up, they would match that amount that it went up in a savings account for me. which was over the years, it took 5 years, they give you 5 years to be in it, built up a very nice amount of savings.
By providing the Mitchell family and many others with affordable housing, the Housing Authority will continue to strengthen the community by offering residents opportunities that will foster positive change for years to come.
The Housing Authority has 2 new projects in the pipeline that will provide another 110 affordable residences to people in need. And we'll be right back.
I'm not happy with the numbers. We've got to find a way to cut costs.
But boss, we've checked everywhere. We're doing everything we can.
Mr. Johnson, I've noticed your office throws a lot of recyclables in the trash. If you recycled instead, it could save you some money.
What floor, please?
Top floor.
How come Dad couldn't come to the beach?
He had to fertilize the lawn.
I saw on television that when fertilizer gets washed into creeks, it causes slimy algae to grow.
Is that bad?
When too much algae grows, there's less oxygen for the fish. Other things washers lawns too, like pesticides.
And the pollution ends up in the ocean. Do you think Dad knows that?
I doubt it. I sure hope he reads the directions.
Remember, when you're fertilizing your lawn, you're not just fertilizing your lawn. Minutes away. Hours of fun. See another world. Stearns Wharf. Your local, affordable source for family fun.
And welcome back to Inside Santa Barbara. Well, the beginning of the school year means seeing old friends and learning new subjects. But what many kids look forward to the most when the school year starts is what happens after school. City TV's Nina Sang has the story.
As summer winds down and leaves begin to fall, children everywhere are adjusting their sleep schedules and loading up their backpacks, transitioning back to school. But just because summer is over doesn't mean the fun has to end. Although formal schooling is a required and necessary component for education, there's plenty of other skills waiting to be explored after school. There are 3 after-school programs offered in Santa Barbara, which include RAP, AOK, and ACES. Elementary students are offered everything from homework help to art programs, sports leagues, field trips, clubs, and several other healthy and affordable activities.
And we have RAP, Recreation After School Program, which is a fee-based program at Washington, Monroe, Roosevelt, Open Alternative, Cesar Chavez, Adams, and Franklin.
RAP is offered daily during the school year until 5:30, except at Roosevelt, which ends at 5. Families can purchase a 30-day pass for $130, or they can opt for a drop-in session where they can purchase a 10-day pass for $70 and drop in as often as they'd like. One of the main goals of the program is to combine education with fun to keep the youth not only entertained, but to also encourage learning.
In our basketball curriculum, we actually, incorporate math skills with the number of shots they've made, and then how do you divide that. So, kind of making it a twist where they're having fun, but also learning and taking away a positive educational experience as well.
For many kids, it's about the bonds and friendships they make. These programs give students who would otherwise not have an opportunity to interact a chance to become friends.
I think it's really cool to watch the dynamics sometimes of the older kids kind of being junior leaders and helping the younger kids, and then vice versa, the younger kids really learning to develop relationships and look up to positive role models that, they go to school with.
In order to encourage all students to participate, RAP offers a scholarship that families can apply for at the city's Parks and Recreation Department. For kids at Adams, Cleveland, Franklin, Harding, and McKinley, another after-school program is offered, AOK, which stands for After School Opportunities for Kids.
There is a small fee that's charged to the families to cover the cost of the program, which is basically $30 a month for the families. But most of the funding comes from Prop 49, which is in legislature in the state of California, and that is what's funding the AOK program.
This requires AOK to comply with California legislation, making it more structured than RAP.
They have an hour of homework help, some receive extra tutoring, an hour of enrichment. This is curriculum that we provide through Parks and Rec and the school district that meets the California standards. Tied to the regular school day. They receive field trips, they have a healthy snack, and we have other outside programs.
The AOK program goes until 6 p.m. every day. Like RAP, AOK also offers scholarships to students. Families can apply simply by visiting the family advocate at the school their child attends.
If a parent comes to our advocate and says, this is what we can afford, then we will accept what they can pay. We don't turn any child away because they can't pay the fee. That, just whatever they can contribute.
At the junior high level, ACES, or the After School Education and Safety Program, offers academic support and a variety of healthy activities, including theater, sports, and culinary art.
I think ACES is unique. Number one, we're the only junior high in the area to offer it. It is also really the students tell me what they want, so it's not like I come up with all these activities and say, okay, kids, you have to join this. They'll let me know right away if something doesn't work.
One example of students helping to create a course that relates to their lives is Fitness to Fashion. This class teaches them about healthy living, fashion, female representation in the media, and ways to feel positive inside and out.
One of the strengths of the after-school program at La Cumbre is we actually have everyone but 3 staff members are La Cumbre staff members. So we find what the staff do well in their outside life and bring it into the after-school program, and that way it also helps the kids kind of see it as a continuation of school, not a separate program, which really helps with behavioral things.
Through after-school programs, youth learn skills that aren't explicitly taught in classrooms, while adding in the special element of fun.
Hopefully, these kids will go to junior high school and they're going to take up that hobby instead of going out and hanging with their friends and, picking up bad habits.
With assistance from district employees, volunteers, and outside agencies like PAL and BC Centro, these programs are able to offer fun activities during the critical after-school hours before parents get home from work.
We're very proud of the fact that we've been able to draw from the community and some of our participants that were in our programs who understand the programs and the demographics of the kids they work with.
Through programs like RAP, AOK, and ACES, kids are not only given a safe place to spend time with friends, but to live active, healthy lifestyles, all while gaining knowledge through a positive learning experience.
And if you are interested in volunteering, donating to the programs, or just want more information on how your child can get involved, visit our website, that's citytv18.com. Well, there are different ways that Santa Barbarans are environmentally conscious. The city, along with local grocers and other organizations, recently kicked off a campaign that reminds people of one simple way to help the environment. It involves asking one question: where's your bag? City TV's photojournalist Jeff Goodvin has the story.
We are having our kickoff event for Where's Your Bag, just to get the public aware of what we're doing with the program so that when they start going to the stores and seeing all our signage, that they'll know what we're about.
Today we're doing a public outreach and education about reusable bags. We have a lot of plastic bags polluting our marine environment and in our creeks and on our beaches, and this is our effort to try and get the word out to the public that we really need to switch from disposable bags and get those bags out of the environment and use reusable bags. It's an easy thing for people to do, and it really helps the environment.
Where we're trying to encourage both the grocers and the shoppers that shop at their local grocery stores to reduce the amount of bags that are single-use, both plastic and paper, and switch over to reusable bags.
What we're finding is, from the industry standpoint, is there's great interest in purchasing the bags, and there is a lot of interest in wanting to use them. The challenge is having consumers remember to bring their bags back to the stores on their follow-up visits.
I am so excited to welcome you to Santa Barbara's very own trashy fashion extravaganza. Now, a high fashion runway model in the 70s.
Most people get it. They know that bringing bags is preferable to taking paper and plastic bags from the stores, but they need, a little help in getting there to remember them. So we're trying to help encourage it to be a habit. We have reminder signage going up at the stores. We have little decals that we're giving people today to put on their cars or wherever is the most handy place for them to keep it so that they remember their bags when they go to the store. And they're really excited about getting free bags today from us.
By law, grocery retailers must have reusable bags in their stores for sale. So the bags are in the stores. We're in the process of educating our members so that they can better educate their courtesy clerks, their checkout clerks, to just remind consumers as they come through to remember to use their bags.
Plastics in the ocean is a huge problem. This is just one source. Plastic bags is just one source of that plastic, but it makes a huge difference. I mean, Californians consume, I think, 19 billion plastic bags a year, just in California alone, every year. So, getting rid of plastic bags will really make a big difference.
For more information on the campaign, visit where'syourbag.com. Well, that does it for this month's episode of Inside Santa Barbara. If you have any questions or comments about our show, give us a call at City TV. That number is 564-5311. You can also watch this show online at citytv18.com. I'm your host, Rachel Alsenis, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.
Rediscover your sense of Santa Barbara. Stearns Wharf, you're on to something.
I pledge.
Pledge to take the 20-gallon challenge. It's easy and simple. Turn your sprinklers on and check for leaks once a month.
I pledge.
Use 3 inches of mulch throughout your garden.
I pledge.
Use online tools to adjust your watering schedule.
I pledge.
Install a rain sensor and it will automatically shut off your sprinklers when it is raining.
I pledge.
Save water now. Take the 20-gallon challenge at sbwater.org.
If you got a broken spatula, don't throw it out. Santa Barbara recycles all metals now. If you got a broken toy and you don't know what to do, Santa Barbara can recycle all plastics too. All metals and plastics are recyclable. You can even recycle your bicycle, 'cause all metals and plastics are recyclable. So reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle.